Greetings, I'm Claudine Colley and welcome to the program Voices. We are coming to you from the headquarters of the North Bahamas Conference of Seventh-day Adventists in the beautiful city of Freeport, Grand Bahama. With me today I have Dr. Althea McMillan, and she has a very interesting story that she is going to share with us about her personal ministry and a ministry alongside her husband for the Seventh-day Adventist movement. Dr. McMillan, welcome.
Thank you.
We have heard about you. Most Adventists know about you because you're not a first-generation Adventist. Tell us, who is Dr. Althea McMillan?
The 14th child of Benjamin Franklin and Mary Jane Moncur of Knowles, Cat Island.
Okay.
My grandfather embraced the message, and then his daughter, my mother, Mary, became an Adventist when she was pregnant with the child just before me.
Okay.
So by the time I was born, she was already an Adventist. So I grew up in the church, held offices as early as 9 years.
Wow.
Yes, at 9 you had to do something. I was AY leader at 9.
Wow.
We were never allowed to miss church because she said the numbers are few and you need every voice to sing, to participate.
Wow.
So I have never missed church unless I'm in hospital or there's a family emergency. But as a child, never.
Wow.
So that's a very important legacy that I seek to pass on to my children.
Okay. Did you see yourself here today as pastor's wife and having gone through all those
No,
years in
I
ministry?
I didn't, because deliberately, well, let's back up a little bit. When I was a teenager, I was at Grantstown. I came to Nassau at age 11 to attend high school and lived with my brother. So we worshipped at Grantstown.
Okay.
And I got very close to the older women and the pastors' wives, and I saw what they had to do. I thought it was too involved, and I determined in my heart, no, let me do something else. That's not for me.
Okay.
So I actually fell in love and married somebody who was a business major.
Interesting.
Yes. I did not marry a pastor.
Okay.
That happened.
Right.
Yeah, and 5 days after we got married, he had already served for a year in what was then the British Guiana Mission in Georgetown, Guyana, South America. So he just came up to get married and take me back.
Right.
So I was flying down 5 days after the wedding.
Wow.
Our honeymoon was actually island hopping, trying to get back to Guyana.
Wow.
And when we got there, he was in the office doing several things, auditing, ABC, just a whole lot of stuff in the office.
Right.
So that was our life, but it was short-lived. I was at the academy, Georgetown Academy, and then one day he said, President wants him to take 2 churches because they were having such a shortage of ministers. And, given his background at Grantstown, you're always busy at church. He said yes. They ordained him as an elder, and every Sabbath we would jump in our car, drive to the ferry, remain in the car. The ferry took you over the Demerara River, and when I say ferry, it's a big boat.
Okay.
When you get in the middle of one of those rivers in Guyana, you don't see land.
Wow.
So we cross the river, we go to church, we spend the day, and we come back home. And to our amazement, both of us enjoyed this.
Wow.
Every Sunday we went visiting all day.
Okay.
We'd visit the members and just literally enjoyed it. So it grew on us, and all of a sudden I realized I'm doing this, and this was not what I set out to do.
Right, right.
So that was how it started, and then he decided, well, since I'm enjoying this so much, I'd go back to Andrews University and do the master's degree in systematic theology.
Right.
So we all tagged along. I did my master's in English at the same time, and the kids registered at Andrews Academy, and we've been in ministry 50
years, 50
50
plus years.
and a half, 50 and a half years.
Wow. How was it in the early days of your ministry, just having to be there for your husband, your children, and then the congregation?
If you enjoy what you're doing, it's not work.
Okay.
Fortunately for both of us, we enjoyed ministry.
Okay.
We didn't see it as a burden.
Mm.
We took our children everywhere we went.
Right.
We didn't leave them with anybody.
Wow.
So they were not a burden to anybody.
Right.
Once you got to church, of course, back then, members would come and assist
With the children.
with the little ones, and you know, because I've always held church offices. You know, in some parts of the world, ministers' wives sit down and they wait to be served.
Mm.
Well, our experience has been in the Caribbean and elsewhere, you serve with your husband.
Right.
So I've always had AY or the choir or something, but I've always had church offices, even while I was having my kids.
Wow.
So the children got used to being a part of the package. So we enjoyed it. When you enjoy what you do, I enjoyed teaching,
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed ministry. And so for me, it wasn't work, you know. And you are on call 7 days per week, 24 hours per day.
Okay.
You know, when there are night calls, my husband goes alone because of the kids. And this is why I have some reservations about women wanting to take on that role, because, you know, there's so much to it. It's not just a matter of administering a church
Right.
and preaching a sermon on Sabbath.
Right.
Ministry is quite involved.
Right. You mentioned education. Tell us some about your experience, your history in education.
Again, I didn't set out to be a teacher. It evolved. I was excited at the thought of being a nurse. I loved the uniform. But by the time I finished high school, I realized that there was more to it than looking pretty.
Okay.
And there were some aspects of nursing that I just couldn't handle.
Okay.
Providentially, by the time I got out of high school, the book center on Shirley Street back then needed a receptionist. So I got a job at the ABC. And after a short while, I think it was less than a year, Pastor Roach asked me to come over to the academy. He was the principal then.
Right.
And I went over as an untrained teacher, again fell in love with the students and fell in love with teaching.
Wow.
After a year, I went on to West Indies College to get my teacher certificate and do the diploma, because that's all they offered back then.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 weeks after graduation was the wedding.
Wow. Wow.
So my master's and my PhD came after I got married.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell folk, there's nothing wrong with studying after the fact, because I got my best grades as a married person.
Wow. Wow.
I got my best grades as a married person, believe it or not.
So did you only teach at Bahamas Academy?
Oh, no. I taught for the church for about 40 years. Bahamas Academy, Georgetown Academy in Guyana, Harrison Memorial in Montego Bay, West Indies College back then when it was West Indies College, then Northern Caribbean University, because I made 3 different trips to Jamaica.
Okay.
3 different trips. And then I taught at Lake Michigan College as an adjunct professor of English. I taught at Andrews University as an associate professor of English. And I taught at St. John's, part-time in the evening.
Okay.
For 13 years, I taught BJC, GCE for government at night. When you're poor, you have to work 24 hours per day. So I tell folk I've worked for 90 years.
Wow. Wow.
45 years during the day and 45 years at night.
Wow. How do you, what is the difference between teaching here in schools in the Bahamas and then teaching Guyana, Jamaica, teaching at the big universities in America? What is the difference, particularly in terms of culture?
I'm a proud Bahamian. And folk in America used to say to me, but you're not trying to get the accent. We have folk who came here after you came here, and you know they're American in speech. Well, I made no effort to change my Bahamian accent. You know, you have Bahamians who go to shop for one day and they come back, and we call them geechee. You know, you can't understand the word they're saying. So culturally, I didn't have a problem because when you work hard, you do your best, you are embraced wherever you go. Right. You know, I didn't have any problems with the whites. I didn't have any problems in the Caribbean area. Because if you love what you do and you work hard, people will embrace you. And I have found in my travels that people are people wherever you go.
Right.
In any and every country, you would have very nice people. You would have people who are not so nice. People are people.
Yes. They are. What would you say, because you've moved well, basically all over?
I have packed and moved 43 times.
Wow.
In 50 years.
Wow.
I have packing and moving down to a science.
Wow.
And I told my husband, I said, now you could decide to pack up again, but this time I'm taking my pocketbook only.
Okay, so you've packed and moved
43 times.
43 times in 50 years.
Yes,
wow. What would you say to wives of young pastors just coming into the ministry?
I'm writing a book on that now. I hope I get a chance to finish it. I'm doing so many things, but it's called The Minister's Minister. First of all, you have to love your husband.
Right.
Because if you love your husband, you're going to support your husband.
Right.
If you marry for the glamour, you're going to have a shock. You're going to have a rude awakening.
Wow.
Because ministry is hard work. So if you love your husband, you're going to support what he's doing. You're going to be involved in what he's doing.
Right.
You're going to be his eyes, his ears, his best critic. Because members will tell him what they think he wants to hear.
Right.
You have to be honest enough to tell him what is the truth. Critiquing sermons, keeping your ears open, troubleshooting, whatever. You have to love your husband enough to support him.
Right.
So my advice is marry for love. Don't marry for the glamour of ministry.
Right.
Marry this man because you love him. If you love him, you're going to follow him when he gets a call. Yes, you discuss it. Yes, you pray about it. In our situation, we would even call a family council when the kids were old enough. Well, this is what we were asked to do. What do you think about it?
Okay.
We got 2 calls to Africa. And we called the children. One area was known as the AIDS capital of the world. The children said.
Wow.
One child said, if the Lord says so, I won't even think of interfering. One child said that. One child said, don't want to talk about it. You know what I mean? So you bring the family in on the discussion.
Right.
But you don't say, well, I'm not going.
Okay.
If your husband receives a call from the church to go somewhere, you can't just dig your heels in and say, I'm not going, because anywhere.
Right.
If you sing it, do it.
Right. Right.
Anywhere he leads me, I will safely go. Don't we sing that?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So if you sing it, live it.
Right. Put actions to words.
Exactly.
Wow. What would you say to the young wives? Because sometimes, I mean, in any area of ministry, you are there supporting your husband, and somebody would discourage him, or he would be frustrated sometimes at the processes that are involved in ministry. How do you just have a ramrod, stiff back, and support your husband without getting emotionally involved in fear of just saying the wrong thing or giving the wrong advice?
You have to have your own spiritual connection. I've seen too many clergy wives who seem to have the notion that my husband's spirituality and religiosity will cover me.
Wow.
You have to have your own personal connection with God. You have to pray for your husband, not just with your husband. Yes, he is the priest of the home. Yes, he is the shepherd of the flock. But you, as the shepherdess, you need to have your own experience with God so that you are ready for the storms when they come.
Wow.
Because they will come.
Wow.
We're not in heaven yet.
No, right. Wow, that's powerful. Well, we're going to take a break right here, Dr. McMillan, and when we come back, we'll talk more about your experiences in the field of education. We'll take a break and be right back.
The Atlantic Caribbean Union will hold its annual mid-year meetings during May 25th through 27th, 2015 at the Union headquarters in Nassau, the Bahamas. This annual mid-year conclave brings together members of the Union Executive Committee for prayer, planning, and reflection. In addition to the business sessions, video progress reports from the Union's 4 fields and Northern Caribbean University will be shared with the Union membership at a praise symposium on Wednesday, May 27th at 7 p.m. at the Hillview Seventh-day Adventist Church in the South Bahamas Conference. The symposium will be a joint service for churches on the island of New Providence and will also be streamed live over the internet for members who are unable to physically attend.
Welcome back to the program Voices. I'm Claudine Colley, and with me in studio is Dr. Althea McMillan. We're having an interesting conversation. She's talking about her life as a pastor's wife, and now we're going to talk with her about being a third-generation Adventist, and then also her years of experience in education and her contribution to the conference. Dr. McMillan, welcome back.
Thank you.
You mentioned earlier that you are a third-generation Adventist, which is remarkable now. You know, people are saying now that because of the growth of the church, most of the Adventists are now first-generation Adventists. What are your thoughts on that?
It's wonderful whether you're first, second, third, as long as you're in.
Yes, yes, yes.
But when you can have a rich legacy, it's you can't trade that for anything.
Right.
You can't trade that for anything. And my grandfather, I can recall him, he was one of the best tenors I've ever heard all my life.
Wow.
In his 80s, he had a tenor like a 20-year-old young man.
Wow.
Powerful, powerful voice. I guess the little singing we do, we got it. It's
From
in the
him.
DNA.
Okay.
But then once my mother accepted, she was the only child who really, of her siblings, she was the only child who became an Adventist, and she was persecuted. My husband talks about it a little bit in his book, From Como to Hawkins. She was persecuted because she was the superintendent of the Sunday school. So when she left, there was a void.
Wow.
And she was persecuted left, right, and center. Even her husband, my father, decided he was not going to support her or the children.
Wow.
Because of this new faith. He said the minister would have to take care of you and your children, and there were many of us.
Wow.
She gave birth to 14 and then adopted 2 of her grandchildren.
Wow.
So there were many of us.
Right.
And that was quite an undertaking for her.
Yes.
A farmer's wife, never had a job all her life. But she remained faithful. She remained faithful. In fact, she told him, she said, I'm going in the water. And if you want the wedding band, you can have it.
Wow.
But I'm going in the water.
Wow.
And she did. Long story short, she embraced the message with all her heart, saw to it that we got an education, whether she had food or not. We went to school. You dare not miss school. And the older children, because there were no opportunities, they left, went to the U.S. or Nassau to work, so that those of us who had the opportunity later on would have a chance to succeed. They supported her. But we all lived to see Papa get baptized before he died.
Wow. Wow.
In his 80s.
Wow.
He gave up the pipe, which was quite a thing. He gave up the pipe, and then years later, he got baptized right at Montague Beach, one blessed Sunday morning.
Wow, that must have been quite an experience.
And I'm sure it was over 30 years. She prayed and hoped and prayed and hoped and prayed and hoped. 30 or 40 years. And we lived to see him get baptized before he died.
Wow.
By one of his sons-in-law, who was a minister by then.
So all of your siblings are Adventists?
Not really, because, you know, the older ones left home
early
before Mama got baptized.
Right, okay, okay.
So 2 of those never did get baptized in the Adventist faith. But those who stayed at home got baptized.
Right. And because of this legacy and the way your family embraced your mom and your grandfather embraced Adventism and the message of truth, you are an Adventist, and you've had quite a ministry, not only as a pastor's wife, but also in education. Share with us some about your experiences at the various places that you've taught.
Well, several stories come to mind, but I remember when we went to Guyana, we really started then helping students who needed assistance.
Okay.
And we were just newlyweds, but we had this Amerindian girl living with us. She was from Parika, that's way up in the interior, by Kaichaw Falls, way up in the interior. But she came and lived with us so that she could attend Georgetown Academy, and we supported her until we left Guyana.
Wow.
And then once we came back home, I went to Bahamas Academy. A number of my students were not Adventists, but 2 of them in particular stuck to me.
Okay.
Tony Palmer is one.
Okay.
She was Anglican. Marion Cox, now Bethel, was one. She was Baptist.
Right, right.
And they would come, they'd spend weekends and so on and so forth. Long story short, they both got baptized.
Yes.
Tony is now treasurer of
That's
this
amazing.
conference, and Marion has done very well. In fact, her oldest daughter, Cherise, came to Jamaica to be with me. She's a physician now, getting married next week. I'm flying in for that wedding. So the Lord blessed my ministry in the classroom, and I've had students from over 50 countries.
Wow.
Because years later, I taught in the English Language Institute at Andrews University. There you have students who come from all over. And we've always had an open door. At one point in Jamaica, we had 10 students living in our house.
Wow.
My children didn't like it one bit.
I would imagine
because they have to share.
Right.
They didn't like the idea that people were calling us mom and dad.
Wow.
They didn't like it.
Wow.
But now when they look back on it, they say, Mommy, thank you. Every time I call my daughter, who is at the University of Alabama, she has a house full.
Wow.
Bahamians and non-Bahamians.
Wow.
So
That's
the very
amazing.
thing that she loathed as a child,
she's now
doing.
Wow. That's amazing. I would imagine the experiences with you here in the Bahamas and taking children into your home differed from when you were in Guyana, and then especially in Jamaica, because Jamaica has a larger Adventist population.
That's right.
Yeah, share with us some about that.
Well, right now, I'm still in the business of assisting students. Last year, I launched a scholarship fund.
Okay.
On the occasion of my birthday. And this book that was just published, that's for the scholarship fund. I have students at Grand Bahama Academy. I have students in Jamaica. I have students in the U.S. who need help. In fact, the kids I have in Jamaica, they have no mother, no father.
Oh, wow.
Because the mother died shortly after I left Jamaica, so they call mom. The phone rings here.
Yes, yes.
One boy is in med school, the other one is in the maritime school, so I'm asking the Lord for a special blessing on this book that I just published, because that's for scholarship money.
Right.
Right. As I leave here, I have to go and write a check for Grand Bahama Academy for one of my students there.
Some would ask why.
Why? Because education is important. Education is your best escape out of poverty. education is your passport to life.
Mm-hmm.
When you're educated, you determine what your paycheck is going to be.
Right, right,
And what you have in your head, nobody can take from you. You see,
Right.
people can do you stuff.
right,
They can malign, they can criticize, they can do you stuff. They can even imprison you like Nelson Mandela.
right, right.
But what you have in your head
They can't take
is
it away.
yours.
Yes, yes, yes. Why Christian education? Why not just put them in any college or any school?
In today's world, it's even more important that you have a safe environment for your children. If you think about what's happening out there, you can't afford not to
Right.
give your child a Christian education. Just forget about the theology, even though that's particularly important, but the
Right.
safety of the environment.
Right.
If you only get a part of the story, what's happening out there in the world, it would frighten you to death.
Yes. Yes.
And then you want, of course, to have your children in the kingdom with you.
Yes. Yes.
So why have somebody teach them who is not going to support that, your belief?
Right. Right. It makes sense, and a lot of parents, Adventist parents. I interviewed the principal of Grand Bahama Academy, and she shared that a lot of Adventists do not see the importance of Christian education. What would you say to those parents?
I would simply tell them, see if you could love your child.
Wow.
And then they'd get angry. I love my child. No, you don't. Because if you really and truly love your child, you want the best for your child.
Yes.
And you want to see your child prepared for life,
Yes.
succeed in life. And success is not just about having a degree. So you're going to protect your child.
Right.
That's a part of the package.
Right.
So it's a mindset. It's not about dollars and cents, you know.
Right.
Because where there is a will, the Lord will make a way.
Yes.
And I know what I'm talking about. When we went to Andrews University, after we registered into the apartment, we didn't have money for tuition.
Wow.
Husband, wife, and 3 kids. We did not have money for tuition.
Wow.
I called my sister to explain our plight, and the tears flowed. I couldn't get the words out. My girl took the phone from me. But when we left, they owed us money, and everybody had a degree.
Wow.
My husband had 2. So it's not about money. It's making up your mind. You have to have a made-up mind, even if you plan to go to heaven.
Right. Right.
Once you make up your mind,
That
you're
is
going.
so. Yes. Yes.
If you say, God, I want this, I need to do this, this is best for my child, He will make the way.
Yes. Yes.
You have to want to.
Yes. Wow. What would you say to parents who are getting a little frustrated because they're paying this tuition and the child is only getting a C?
It's called getting them ready before they get there.
Okay.
It's called paying a little bit more attention to the home curriculum.
Mm.
Every home has a curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
How did you prepare this child before the child entered school?
Wow.
What are you doing at home even now that the child is in school?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing at home?
Right.
So you're giving the child things rather than some of your time.
Wow.
Do you take the time to look into the child's book?
Mm.
Do you take the time to be sure the child gets a good breakfast? Because the research shows that a high-protein breakfast every morning guarantees better grades.
Wow.
Are you feeding your child junk?
Yes.
Are you absorbed with other things rather than paying attention to what is happening to your child? Is your child on the telephone texting when
Right.
he or she should be reading?
Right.
So we believe, okay, I have a TV in the room, I have a computer in the room, the child has a cell phone,
They're
and
comfortable.
something is going to happen. Doesn't work like that.
Right.
There has to be a program, we need to adopt the Japanese style. Before they buy all this fancy furniture, the child gets a desk.
Mm.
And the desk has blinders on the side.
Wow.
It has a lamp. There is a designated place for study.
Right.
You go in most Bahamian homes, There's the dining table, but there's no desk
Yes,
for the child
right.
for private study in a
right.
private spot.
Right.
We
Wow.
put the emphasis in the wrong place.
Places, right.
So if we do what we're supposed to do, how we are supposed to do it, the child will succeed. And above all, let the child know that you believe they can.
Right. Right. Wow. Wow, that's powerful, and I'm sure impactful for our listeners. Dr. McMillan, thank you so much. This has really been an interesting conversation, and I wish we had more time because a lot of the stuff that you've said, really, I take it in. So thank you very much. Thank you most importantly for your contribution to the work of the Lord and your giving to the Lord, because it is because of persons like you that Adventists are coming in. People from all over, sheep of other fold, are coming in because of the work that you've done and the contributions you've made. So thank you very much. And thank you for taking this time out with us on Voices. We pray you Godspeed in your endeavors.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. This has been Voices. I'm Claudine Colley, and we've had with us Dr. Althea McMillan. Until next time, we say Godspeed and thank you.
The Atlantic Caribbean Union will hold its annual mid-year meetings during May 25th through 27th, 2015 at the Union headquarters in Nassau, the Bahamas. This annual mid-year conclave brings together members of the Union Executive Committee for prayer, planning, and reflection. In addition to the business sessions, video progress reports from the Union's 4 fields and Northern Caribbean University will be shared with the Union membership at a praise symposium on Wednesday, May 27th at 7 p.m. at the Hillview Seventh-day Adventist Church in the South Bahamas Conference. The symposium will be a joint service for churches on the island of New Providence and will also be streamed live over the internet for members who are unable to physically attend.